Good afternoon, it's Joshua Taylor coming to you again from here in Hope, British Columbia on Kingdom Camps for the Homeless. And today I'm just going to title this podcast uh, Faith. Do we really have the faith to prepare for what's coming upon the earth? And I'd just like to recap a little bit, but I would also like to bring forth a vision that David Terrell, God's prophet to the world, had many years ago. In 1967, Jesus came to him and touched the palms of his hands and gave him the revelation of Jesus Christ. But over these past 50 years, he's been telling the people prophetically, as a world prophet, to get out of the cities, learn to prepare without having to go to the store like ants preparing for winter, right? And even when I lived in Bangs, Texas for about a year and a half, I sat under his ministry. This is where I was inspired with the vision that he had concerning blessed areas, and it's had an impact on my life these past 30 years. And I've been doing what I can to design isometric, geometric layouts, both for land and buildings, where a year's work can be compressed into a day. And that's what the Lord told me. The time's coming where you're going to have to be able to compress a year's work into one day because of the times you're coming into. But anyway, there was a time, this man of God, he was retired. He was at a farm somewhere in Texas. His came to the end of his ministry, and the nuclear bombs began to fall on the cities of the United States. And all of a sudden, a group of his own people found out where he was, and they came up to him. He said, "Brother Terrell, save us, save us." And he turned and he looked at them, and he said this. He said, "It's too late. It's too late. It's too late, because you did not listen. You did not take the time to heed God's warning and to prepare." And their lives were over. They reaped they didn't put their faith in action to prepare like Noah for the time of judgment of his day and of the times we were coming into. And I'd just like to go forward in time. 1988, this angel of the Lord took me out into 7 open visions that lasted for 45 minutes. I was taken into the day of the Lord. And toward the last part, it might have been around the 5th or 6th part of the visions, it was at the time I was standing on board one of these new super ferries that were not built, these Spirit class ferries in Departure Bay, Vancouver Island. And the ferry was just getting ready to leave, and I came back down on board. I was standing out on the walk deck where they have the ramp that goes up, and the Lord commanded a creature to stand up on the port side of the ship. His head was taller than the Spirit class ferries, and he bent down. His head was as big as my van, and his eyes were like this, and he had teeth that were over 3 feet long. But I had no fear. I saw people come out with cell phones. This is 1988. Taking pictures. Word got out. Word traveled fast. And I spoke to the creatures. He was there for about 10 minutes. And says, "You have to go. Jets are being released to try to take you out." Anyway, the vision changed. This was in the early afternoon. And when the ferry got into Vancouver, into the Vancouver harbor, when it was coming in, the light was just getting dark. It was just getting dusk. And I seen all these choppers leave, many choppers, and I could see the different names: NBC, CBC, Fox News, all of this. It's probably at least a dozen choppers or more. And when I got off the ferry, the angel of the Lord, Gabriel, appeared to me on my right-hand side. And I was going to say something in my own intellect, but the Lord put his word in me. And at the time, I saw all these reporters that were dropped off from across North America. And in the spirit, I could see what was on their heart. They were in one mind and one accord. And they wanted to know how much time. They were worried about the destruction that was going to hit Vancouver, that's going to take out, that was going to cripple and destroy the west coast of Canada. And this destruction went all the way from Alaska to Argentina. It was a major quake. It could have been just prior to the pole shift. But anyway, the quake didn't happen then. It was still in the early stages. People were being warned. God gave people time to get off Vancouver Island. There was mandatory evacuation of Vancouver Island. But anyway, these reporters wanted to know one thing. They wanted to know how much time, because they were afraid of the bottom line. They were afraid about not being able to sell their homes. So the word of the Lord came to me, and I said this. I told them, you have no time to sell your homes. And the Lord told me not to put this into the written visions at the time, but you only have not enough time to flee. That means to pack a suitcase and get away from the coast, or you're going to die. And now I come up to this time, I'm saying, I'm saying the same message to you. If you neglect to prepare, if you neglect to take heed, to prepare like Noah did, he was counted worthy because he believed God that destruction was coming, and he did something about it. So if you do nothing about it, and you have the means to do something to prepare, God's going to hold you accountable, and he's going to classify your faith as being void and null, and you will pay the price of your disobedience. You will see your families destroyed. And it breaks my heart when the Lord gave me these visions so many years ago. I saw, but I did see, there was hope there. I did see a convoy of over 10,000 vehicles that stretched for 50 miles all the way from the east side of Surrey, British Columbia, all the way here to Hope, where I'm actually been living for the past several months or so, this past winter. And or maybe it was Chilliwack. I think it was Chilliwack, the 50-mile convoy. I saw every vehicle. I saw this 10,000 convoy as a panoramic view. The Lord took me in on a Zoom, and I saw a lineup of 5 miles of transport trucks that were fully outfitted, but all they were all tarps, so I didn't see what was under the tarps. But I believe it has to do with these portable camp systems that God has given me over the years. But that time is coming. And when I was standing right at the last vision, I was standing outside of here of Hope on the Agassiz Highway. I was standing on the south side of the Agassiz Highway, the number 7 highway. And the angel of the Lord appeared to me again. And I was dressed in black. And the Lord sent me to the west coast to bring forth a final warning. And I had a staff in my right hand. The angel of the Lord appeared a second time. And he asked me, where can my people go? And in my left hand, I had a tube of the final plans to develop places of refuge. I swung around and I pointed up with my staff to the Hazelton area, which is several hours or so west of Prince George. Prince George is going to be destroyed. But that whole higher plateau that stretches for 150 miles to many hundreds of miles going north, that's going to be one of the places of refuge across Canada. There's going to be 7 places of refuge across Canada like this. The north is going to become the refuge. God has reserved the northern frontier to be places of refuge for his people. And what was I going to say? But when the earthquake happened, when the angel of the Lord commanded me to speak forth the earthquake, I looked up, I seen the face of Jesus, and I looked into his eyes. I saw his love for the people, but I did not see any mercy. For God has given a time of mercy. He's even extended the time of mercy. There's a break in the time stream. It might have been a week, might have been 2 weeks, but it wasn't all that long. He gave enough time for those who were obedient to get out, and a convoy did leave out, and they did get out before the West Coast was destroyed by 9.1, to be followed by a 12.2 within 24 hours after. And after that, I was hunted by the government. God prepared a way of escape where I was able to get out of the country, where he flew me south to the United States in a private jet. At that time, the money was worth 20% of its value. I knew in the Spirit, I knew all things in the Spirit in those visions by revelation. And Canada was in a time of hyperinflation. Now 600% hyperinflation. Cash was virtually worthless, and we're about to go into those times. But for you that are up north, and especially Yorkton, you better listen to what the Lord is saying. If you got the means and the ways to prepare your city to get off grid, to prepare for these times that are coming, to secure your livelihood and your families for what's coming, you better listen. Because if you sit and do nothing, expecting that your finances are going to save you, you're going to find that your accounts are going to be wiped out when the bail-ins begin. And those of you that have finances in the bank, RSPs and all that, you better take your money out, because the system is about to go down, you know. So I'm not just saying this out of spite, I'm saying this out of love, because I know what's coming. I've seen it. I've seen the faces of 3 million people in the visions as a 1,500-foot tsunami was coming, about to hit Vancouver. They were wiped out just by the blast of it coming in. I saw the faces of 3 million people, men, women, and children, all die. And I seen the fear, great fear. The fear was so great that they were screaming, and no sound was coming out of their mouth. I saw all those Christians who believed in the rapture, that they'd be taken out of destruction. I seen every one of them, and they all died. They all perished, and they died in their disbelief, right? And the Lord has given me a lot over the years. He's given me this relocation technology, this microcamp technology. He's given me the Joe Pipe technology, which will become the #1 discovery of unlimited heat. That's going to be used to power the places of refuge. But you really need to take heed, and you need to pray about it. Destruction is coming. But if you sit idle and do nothing, if you can't even learn to network together, to come together as a body, as a collective, as a community, to prepare, God help you. Because when that time comes, when destruction hits, and destruction will also hit, it's going to hit all of North America. And 3 years from now, we're going to see the tanks, Russian and Chinese tanks, going to be rolling over the countryside. And if you're still alive, the Chinese are not going to take any captives. The Russians are going to take people and force them into labor camps. And there's many messengers out there that have seen all this, but yet, so, you know, it's the believers that lack faith the most. You have a lot of unbelievers that don't know the Lord. They're preparing. They can see the times, and they're doing something about it. A lot of preppers. And yet God's church is asleep. What is it going to take for you to wake up and to smell the coffee, right? To realize the seriousness of the times. This is my last message to you. You know, the blood will be on your hands if you don't listen, if you don't come together to try to, in love, to put a plan of action together. The blood be on your hands. Because I've come to the place where I'm tired of, you know, screaming out and warning about what's coming. The blood be on your hands, and let your money perish with you if you don't take heed. So let's be obedient and come to a place where to put our faith in action. That's all I can say. I can't say any more than this. Destruction is coming, and God has granted us a time of pause. We will see the man of sin, the Antichrist, rise up in 3 years' time, in less than 3 years' time. This coming 5G, the web is going to be, the dark web is coming. The 5G is going to control your life, and all of us. And it's biologically, it's not friendly. It's going to take your health. So those of you that are in the country, you better heed and you better step up to the plate and ask the Father for His wisdom on what steps to take. And it's coming together in love. That's the fruit. The first century church, they were in the trenches, and they knew what it was to love one another, to have all things in common, and the needs of everyone was met because they shared. They came together in the spirit of community. And so we must use this as an example and do the same. This is Joshua Taylor coming to you from this first day of March 2019.